All right. So last week of the group mentorship, we are almost done. We're wrapping it up. Biggest thing for you guys, if you have not submitted a case study and you're watching this recorded, you have until the end of the week to get one sent in. And we would like you to send it to info@compoundperformance.info. You can send it via Google Drive. You can send it via Excel. I don't care. Kyle probably doesn't care either. We just need something to be able to turn into NSCA so that you guys can receive your credits. And if you don't, you will not get credits. And if you complain that you did not get credits, but you did not submit your case study, I don't care.
Matt, that just means Matt's gonna meme you.
Yes. Yes. I've got screenshots of everybody on this call, and I will post a clown emoji over your face and post it on my social media. So we do have one already. And Manny, so you can send it to us via Google Drive or download it as an Excel sheet. And Matt asked if he can get everything. He's got everything but the Eisenhower matrix and training principles done. Can I send it in on Wednesday? Yes, you guys have until Friday to send it in, or end of the week to send it in. So plenty of time.
If you have an extenuating circumstance where you need more time,
just let us know.
Let us know. We're not super strict. We just, like with all things, have to have a timeline set. Obviously, you guys probably want this completed for 2020 CEUs if that's what you're looking for anyway. So the faster you can get it to us, the faster we can get you your CEUs.
Yes. We're not actually assholes. We just play assholes on social media.
I'm actually nicer on social media than I am in real life.
Yeah, that's actually very true.
You are the opposite.
Well, you know what was really funny was at the over the weekend course, I met one of the guys from the last quarter group mentorship, and that's exactly what he said. He was like, "You're a lot meaner. You're a lot nicer in person than I thought you were going to be." I was like, "Yeah, Kyle's the mean one." It's like I'm the nice guy. Kyle's mean.
It's true. I only have niceness for
for people that you don't like, right?
No, like niceness, just it all gets spent on people that live directly in my house.
Yes, it's a very finite resource for Kyle.
After that, I have a hard time with most people. I've decided.
Yeah.
So.
This is actually a good point. And Manny, I'm going to read this one out in the call just so everybody can understand it. If they do have one that's not, they do have a provider that's not NSCA. So Manny said that he just called NASM earlier today, and they will charge you $25 for a petition fee if your cert, seminar, or CEU is not listed on their website. He says it's quite bullshit, but oh well. But if NSCA is approving it, NASM will approve it as well.
And I'm going to be 100% honest with all of you on why we did not get it accredited through NASM. It's because they were going to charge us $5,000 a year to do so. So, sorry, not sorry.
A lot of money. A lot of money. And Alex, I would imagine ACSM is the same process as NASM.
Yeah, you're just going to have to do a petition fee. I'm not sure what they charge or if they charge. NASM didn't used to actually charge for petition fees.
Yeah.
Now they do. So it's a business. Everything's a business.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing you've learned from these 10 weeks. I hope that's not the primary thing, but I hope that's more.
I hope there's more than just that.
I hope there's more than that.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. We got Mike Dewar who sent in a case study.
Yeah, he can just clock out now. He's good.
Yeah, Mike, you're good. You don't have to even be here on this call. All right. So we got Mike Dewar's case study right here.
You're actually okay.
What?
I thought you were going over the sample. You're actually
Oh no, we're gonna do just like we did last time.
Okay.
Just go right over it. We'll skip your financial ones though, Mike. Maybe, because we didn't do that last time. All right. So what we're looking at with this is we're just looking at everything that you're trying to fill out to make sure that you're as specific as possible with every single thing that you're looking to hit. And trying to make your target client here as specific as humanly possible. So who are they? What are they interested in? So tell me a little bit about them, and then tell me the most important thing that you need to know from that person. right? Because all of these things that we're looking at here, all of these questions on the intake form, all of the things about your client, all of these should lead into who your target client is. So if you guys haven't filled this one out yet, one of the things that I've done in the past when I've struggled, and actually this is how I worked with Kyle when I did the individual mentorship, was I actually worked backwards and created my intake questions first, described my ideal client second, and then had them at the very end, because I talked about everything that I wanted in that person, everything I wanted to know about them, and then I got to a pretty good point.
And caveat here, we talked about this a little bit in the first couple of weeks, but depending on whether this is aimed or focused on in-person clients versus remote clients will also kind of impact the order that you probably perform this in. Like Matt said, when you're working in a facility, your training demographic is going to be decided by that facility and the demographic that populates it, right? More so than you being able to just pick and choose. Unless you're just, asterisk, unless you're just super well known for one thing and you have a very big population. For me, like Matt was like the powerlifting guy at his gym. But like for me, in the middle of Manhattan, coming in as a guy with a athletic background, a BS, CS, CS, and really no experience training gym pop people, I couldn't really promote myself as like the athletic development guy in that population because nobody at that gym was an athlete. Not a single fucking person at all in the middle of Union Square, Manhattan. They were rich and they had very important office jobs. They did not have the time nor the training background to spontaneously train like athletes to get anything done. So I had to change my approach very significantly for that. Now, conversely, if you're on more of a remote type, like you're looking at using this to launch your remote business, well, now you have the whole wide world to market to. And you can very much decide what your niche is and who you're marketing to, what your demographic is, right? So conversely, I can live in New York, hypothetically, and train a bunch of remote clients who are potentially looking for athletic development to live all over the place, right? So again, you might, depending on what your environment is, do this a little backwards, kind of like what Matt did, right? If you're really looking at this from a remote perspective, you can probably start with your target client and go the other direction. Neither one of them is bad nor good, but it is a consideration to think about as you're going through this.
And Mike actually just made up a good point in the chat as well, where he said, I sent my in-person case study and I have a different one made for remote clients.
Yeah. If you want to, you guys are free to copy this, make another one for different demographics, whatever, like feel free. You don't have to turn in both of them. Obviously we just need one for the CE stuff. But use the resources for sure if they're helpful.
Absolutely. So the next thing that we went over through here is building out an email template, right? So if you look at what Mike has done with the email template, everything is fairly directed towards the sign up link, and everything is very, very, the communication is very, very good. And it gives people exactly what they're going to be expecting in each one. So this is the post-consultation follow-up. It tells them exactly, thank you for discussing your goals and interests and how we can build a training plan. If you want to move forward, here's the link to get you started, and then we'll get everything else set up afterwards. So this is a good post-consultation follow-up. The initial info request, it's loading. Did you not write one out yet, Mike? Oh, Mike.
You did everything but the...
Mike, the one that I selected, you didn't pick. But again, this is for in-person, so it probably doesn't even need to have an initial info request for that. I just want to give you shit for it. Scheduling a consultation has a different email, so it gives out and lays out all of the expectations that you can have for this, and everything about what could be going on. Oh, and Mike has an autoresponder in Squarespace for scheduling a consultation, which is totally fine. purchase confirmation. Here's all of the stuff that you got to get done. Here's everything you got to do after you've purchased, all the things you got to get set up, the waiver and release, all of the other stuff that he stole from me. Kidding, Mike. You did these all on your own. And then basically all the stuff that they would get about the confirmation. And checking email doesn't exist because they don't need it, and a random email doesn't exist because they are in person and they don't need it. So yeah, I mean, like, this is what we're looking. This is exactly what we're looking for in this, is trying to make it as specific as possible for your person. And he even labeled it up at the top that this is for in-person training only. So makes it very clear and very obvious for us.
Anybody have any questions about this tab specifically? We'll answer broad questions at the end for sure, but anything on this tab as we're kind of going through it.
And Mike, at certain points, we will make you unmute yourself and talk about things.
Chat it up.
He's like, oh no.
What did we do? We picked
We picked Victor.
We had a stock image of Mike last week from like 10
Yes
years ago when he was prepubescent, and now we're just going through his case study as well. So
we're just looking at his growth.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you being the guinea pig on all this.
The glow up is real, young boy to mustache man. All right, so if we go through this, if you look at these, remember these two are going to be all boxes that you kind of fill in on your own. So Mike is a D. These are going to be his strengths, or what may be his strengths, and these may be some of his limitations. And when he's communicating with people, this is just here to give you an idea of what you can say and how you can talk to people who have different personality types with them, right? So that might be an easier, there's a point of reference for you to let you figure out how to communicate better and build better communication strategies. So Mike's found out his personal strengths and his limitations. So his strengths, tell us a little bit about them, Mike. So unmute yourself and talk to us a bit.
I guess my strengths, I mean, it's so cliche, but I feel like I'm pretty driven to succeed. I'm pretty direct, just in general life, but I guess in business, specifically with clients, I try not to kind of beat around the bush. So, in terms of like the sale, I lay pretty much everything out for them. I have information of just like, hey, this is what you can expect. Here's the first 30 days, what it's going to look like in terms of your experience. Here's the systems we use. Here's our pricing models. So it's just kind of all out in the open. That's just kind of my sales tactic, I guess, instead of kind of trying to just car salesy. But that also, I guess, just kind of goes with my personality. Then I guess definitely I like to think I'm professional and personable, but I'm also like going to make sure, I know a lot of times with certain clients, we can kind of get off track and start talking. And, some people have that personality type, but being able to kind of direct them back into training, so I guess that would be a strength. I'm very organized, so that's helpful to be able to get stuff done, because I do a lot of things in terms of streams of income. So limitations, I guess part of that is I can be impatient with people who maybe don't click on all cylinders as fast as I'd like, or I guess empathetic at times, just because, I am so like process oriented. So like having the communication strategies has definitely been helpful. So I don't, so I don't put my foot in my mouth with certain clients. And I can definitely be demanding in a sense. I mean, I've been kind of known as like not a drill sergeant trainer, but people kind of love and hate that about me, is that I kind of, if we set something down, I'm going to do my best to make sure they do it. So I'm rigid, but not. So they kind of go hand in hand together, I guess.
Cool. And talk to us a little bit about your core values. I do notice that one of your core values is not spelling, and that is bothering me.
It should be Hennessy. No. Honesty. I guess honesty, integrity, and authentic. Just really because that's kind of what, the people that I associate with, like if I had a trainer, that's what I'd want. So having conversations, whether that's in the sale, in the session, or just in general life. I think those are kind of the three that always kind of go back to. I'm gravitated towards people who say how it is. Obviously not being a dick about it, but they can do that when they need to. And then, obviously honesty and integrity takes time, especially with your business. So I think it's just the longer you're in it, right, getting the feedback from people and establishing that feedback channel, then you can kind of start to validate that and have social proof, whether that's in reviews or whatever that might be. So I think those are the three biggest things in terms of retention for clientele. Like, I'm not out there, I do well, but I'm not out there trying to I don't really do any paid ads yet. So obviously I could probably get into that, but I think if you can focus on those, just be a good human, most people are going to kind of smell BS and they're going to be attracted to good people. Unless they're clients you don't want.
I agree with that 100%. That's definitely a true statement, is like the people that you want to attract will be able to sense and cut through the bullshit and get to where they want to go, get to where they should be. For sure. Yeah. Disc type here. I don't know what this is. Did you put this in here, Mike?
Yeah,
Nice.
I think I added that.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause I've been doing different stuff. Cause I've had clients who are really into this stuff and they were all just curious of what I was. So I always kind of just look at that.
That's awesome. No, I think that's a really good addition. So you can get the blend of what you are and where you're going to fall, and a little bit more of a description, so you can always remind yourself what your strengths and weaknesses are going to be, or what your potential limitations in communication will be, and how to best communicate with others. Yeah. So I think that's cool.
Just keep in mind for everybody else on the call, most of us are hybrids between two. Very few people that I've done almost 300 of these, or just over 300 of these at this point. And the majority of people are hybrids. Very few people are just one archetype in my experience, just straight down the middle. So that also means that you're going to be a little more adaptable and situational in how you approach different people based on the environment that you're actually in, right? So you always have to think about how the person themselves are going to impact your bias and your perceptions, but also how the environment and the context of the situation that you're in will also impact and bias your perceptions of that conversation, right? So always kind of be thinking about that as well, and just realize that, you're going to have more of a swing probably to, Mike is a DC, right? So, but that also means his secondary adaptation is probably going to swing him pretty hard into a C with a lot of, other areas, right? Even just looking at organizational skills, right? Where he said D's aren't typically organized. They're actually typically a little bit chaotic, but it makes more sense looking now that he's kind of adapted into that C and embraced that portion of the archetype based on his business, because the situation, the environment dictates those things being beneficial to him, right? Where that's going to be, and have a bigger return on, again, time and emotional investment from an organizational standpoint, than being more chaotic and a little more kind of fly by the seat of your pants, right? So being a hybrid's not a bad thing. It's actually probably a good thing. It means you're not as rigid, most likely, in a lot of those ways. So just this little caveat there, a little side note. Think about it.
Yeah. So we'll kind of skip that one. So that was the personal income one. And there's probably going to be, based off of the fact that this is December, all last quarter's financials. So we'll just breeze past that one and just be like, yeah, Mike's probably got his stuff in order.
Well, I guess I will say though,
do you want us to go over it?
I don't care about that stuff in terms of showing financials. I think it's up to you if it's helpful for you guys. I'm not worried about it. I have the clients' names off there, so.
Okay.
Let's look at it conceptually first. So you were going to ask a question or have a statement there.
Oh, well, so from if I look at when I did what I reviewed is because I have multiple streams of income, both online, I work with affiliates and all that stuff, and then in person. So I kind of laid everything out in terms of what I was making, the hours that I was doing, and it became very apparent that I was putting the 80-20 rule, a lot of like 80% of my income was coming from like 20% of my work, which was awesome, right? Because I was making high amounts of money for not a lot of work. And then a lot of my sweat and mental energy and like to sweat equity, if you will, from my business was things that weren't really, like they're making like 40 an hour or 35 an hour versus 70, 80, 90, 100. So it really helped me. Once I did that, it was definitely an eye-opening experience to be like, okay, is this A, worth doing anymore? And then B, if it is worth doing, like my semi-private model, for example, is something that it requires like a quarter or a third of my time investment a week, and it makes like half or a third of some of the other things. So in my head, I'm like, is the model just not enough people in it, or is it a broken model and I'd be better off just not doing it? So it was a very cool experience to see that. And then also I think just to understand how I set my rates and know my limit. If I want to make X post-tax and I want to work 30 hours a week, I have to have a bottom line of this and then be able to, go from there and have those conversations. So I think if people haven't done that, in the first month I made back my investment for this class and then some. And, it's just like it's snowballing even more just by doing that and rate increase. And then also just knowing what's clicking and what's not, and just pouring more energy into the things that are.
And I'm really glad you actually brought that up, because I know for a while that was one of the things that you were struggling with the most, was talking about the rate increase and getting all that stuff done. So really awesome to hear that you did it, you got it done, and you're noticing all the positive return on it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The dollar per hour thing is a huge deal, guys.
Yeah.
For you to figure that out and then to be able to look at the amount of time you're spending and like that's something that Matt and I audit, monthly to quarterly for our stuff as well. Like you just have to know, because that will, like Mike said, it will dictate where you spend the majority of your time and energy. And I think a lot of people in business chase a lot of that really hard work, low return stuff, maybe because they're a little more passionate about it, or they're kind of biased towards it. They maybe think it has a bigger opportunity than it does. But at some point, we also have to look at the actual data. And you just have to make that kind of acknowledgement that if you are going to continue to chase something and pursue something that maybe doesn't have the same value as your other services, that's okay if you really enjoy doing it and it fills that bucket emotionally, right? Or on your principles or whatever, right? Just understand why you're doing what you're doing. And just understand that when you do your calculations from a monthly, quarterly perspective, and when you look at your income, you still probably need to have a better strategy for those, where you at least have an hourly cap on anything that's not going to be super financially productive, right? So you can kind of fill that bucket, you can get what you need out of it emotionally, but you're also not replacing other things with that time that could be more beneficial for your business.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really important point, is that if you guys figure out your dollar per hour, do not go below it. Like, do not for anything. Yeah. It's like Kyle was saying, if it's unless it's something that you're passionate about and it's something that's like a hobby, then that's probably more acceptable and probably okay. But other than that, if it's work related, do not compromise on that.
And think about that with your bulk rate pricing as well. If you're bulk rate pricing, like your dollar per hour makes up the cheapest option on your bulk rate, and you build up from there too. Right. Yeah. So about that. No one wants a bunch of 30 packs that are $25 under the dollar per hour. It's literally making less money for longer amounts of time.
Yeah. So my bulk rate pricing goes, my dollar per hour for my in-person clients is $100 an hour. And mine goes $100, $105 for a 12 pack, $110 for a 24 pack. Right. So it just scales up. Cool. So I think that's we've pretty much kind of gone over all the financial stuff. I don't think we need to show it to go over any of that stuff. So tell us a little bit about your social media content calendar, Mike.
Yeah. So I have two, just because I have my personal and I have
there's this one here.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I was really diligent with the business one for like the first week, and I was just like, you know what, it's too much. So I really focus on just my personal.
I think that's
My
very
personal
fair.
also has like, I mean, most of the people who follow my business follow my personal, and it has like 4 times the reach. So I'm like, screw it.
I think that's a very fair thing. And that's one of the reasons why like Kyle, Sam, and I only have our personal Instagrams.
Yeah, I think too, people like when it goes back to authentic and all that stuff, I find better conversions when I'm just on my own personal, because people follow me as a person, not just the company. So,
Absolutely.
So with this, so basically I broke it down because stories are in the blue, like my content for stories, because I have been doing a lot of stories. I just find good traction with those. People respond very well. So that's kind of the separation, at least from the colors. So I will say this, ask me any, well, so for precursors. So in the past, since I've started, I've gotten 5 new online clients. I charge $200 a month since November, and that's monthly, so that's reoccurring. So aside from even increasing rates, I've got new business, and it's 100% from this stuff, from doing this. So every Monday, like I love doing this. Ask me anything. I usually get like 20 to 30 questions. I know you guys do that too. I get a lot of, I can start to see when people ask questions, it's usually the same people. And I believe it was way back, you guys were like, hey, you're going to get people who are going to ask you repetitively, right? And you're going to know those are probably people that probably want to train with you, and just gently kind of nudge them and be like, hey, I do this for a living, or maybe like try and really tailor some specific answers for them so they feel like, hey, he's got me in mind. And I closed 2 people from that just from doing stories. But,
Nice.
that's just kind of a side note. So I know some people don't have the ability to do swipe ups on their stories. I think you have to have like 10,000 or whatever. But if you do have that, or you can link it in your bio, I think that's great for call to actions. I think the biggest thing with my post calendar, right? So like a lot of my Instagram, people go there, they look at it. It's a lot of my workouts. So, I noticed when I was looking at my insights that a lot of people bookmark my workouts because I kind of put out what I've done, what sets and reps. I might say a thing about it here and there. So those were like always my top trending ones. So I made those basically like the 50% of my strategy was that. What I wasn't doing in the past was a call to action on every single one. I just, for whatever reason, felt maybe I was like being overly spammy, but apparently it's not, because I've got good conversions from it. And it wasn't anything crazy, honestly. Like I looked at a lot of like what Kyle was doing, what like other people who I follow doing, where they're just like a gentle kind of like, I got a couple spots left, or hey, if you want coaching, shoot me a DM. Nothing crazy about it, just kind of added at the end. So that was basically the Monday, Wednesdays. Sometimes it would turn into Friday too, because I do Olympic weightlifting in my workout on Fridays. So I would either push the app that I have or just working. And then I saved and then Tuesday was much more informative, which, everyone kind of has seen those before. I think the Tuesday post, at least once a week, I was trying to do a post like a blog post. So it was definitely, I sat down for like 10 minutes, really thought about the post, tried to have somebody who could learn from that post. It definitely was a more time intensive, but I think the ROI is good because it kind of builds credibility. And I have had people who say like, hey, I saw that post. I also noticed posts like that, for whatever reason, maybe it's long form content. That's what people want now, but they just got picked up better traction wise by the algorithms. So those made the list. And then I left Thursday and Saturday open just because Thursdays I usually don't train. And I just wanted to kind of have a post that's not fitness related, or maybe it's not so bam in your face. It's more of a personal. Same with Saturday.
Nice.
So that's kind of my how the content went.
I think the Thursday and Saturday thing that you're doing there is also a really, really good idea as well, because it makes it seem like even though there's a CTA in there. So if you guys look at it, there's a CTA in both of those. It's got a question mark next to it. So there may not necessarily always be one, I'm assuming. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah. Sometimes if it didn't feel organic, I just wouldn't add it.
Okay.
Cause I figure like I'm shooting the CTAs almost every day. So, sometimes it just was like, I don't have anything, I'm just not going to do it. So I just kind of let it happen.
And I think that's a really important thing too, because like one of the things that you brought up earlier is you don't want to feel like you're overly spamming on every single post with a CTA. And the way that I'll always combat that is the same way that Kyle will always combat that too. And just tell you guys that people on social media have the memory of a goldfish. So if you post today and you post tomorrow, people have already forgotten your post from yesterday. It's already gone. Don't remember it. It's over. It's vanished. So if you do another one, it's okay. But I think what is nice about you having the Thursday and Saturday non-training related posts with not necessarily having a CTA in it is it also humanizes you a little bit more and makes people feel like they can get to know you better. Right. And if they're getting to know you better, they can actually get to learn who Mike Dewar is and buy from Mike Dewar and not the J2 Fit. Right. So I think that's an important thing to know is like Kyle, how many saves do you get when you post a picture of your like wife and kids?
A creepy amount. Like,
Yeah.
why does this picture of my kids have 100 saves? Like, that's super weird.
That's weird, but it also
people, guys, don't be one of those.
Don't be one of those people. But it also becomes it also looks like it's Kyle Dobbs the person, not Kyle Dobbs the coach. And it's this. I would say it's probably the same thing for you, Mike, where it's like this is Mike Dewar the person, not Mike Dewar the coach.
Yeah. Or like when I post a picture of my wife or I in my stories and I tag her, and then I can see how many there's like I had one and like over 100 people were like, who is this lady? Like tagging it, like clicking her tag. So,
yeah.
But I mean, it's good traction. And, I think, when I follow people, like, I think it's cool that they have a personal life. So,
Yeah.
that's
I think that's where, and again, depending on what your strategies are, like most of my post content is fitness related, and I'll put more like family stuff and stories. And I honestly do that purposely with stuff like my kids, so it disappears.
So that 100 people can't save it creepily.
I just don't want that out there forever, right? So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of mix that in. I do think especially like Matt and I market primarily to coaches, right? So our stuff is going to be a little more coach orientated typically, but the majority of people on this call promote to real people, right? And I think that's where like being a real person yourself and showing that you do things outside the gym and you're not just some gym robot ends up being really beneficial for a lot of those people because it makes you so much more relatable to what they're looking for. And I think that's a big deal. Like Matt said, the call to action stuff, as someone who's super introverted and really hates sales, I have a hard time with this personally as well, right? Just posting those up and putting them in. So like Mike said, we try to be really subtle with them. It's like, hey, if you have a question about what we do, shoot me a DM. If you're interested in coaching, shoot me a DM or look at, it's posted on our link tree or whatever. But like Matt said, also like one, short-term memory is non-existent when it comes to social media. And two, like even looking at the algorithms, like we see this on stories all the time. Like when we do a launch, we end up doing more sales, like more sales posts on stories. And we don't want to saturate it to where we're doing it every day, but we'll do like every other day through that. And when you guys look at your views on your stories, you have to realize that you at most are probably getting 20% of your total following that even sees that story.
For example, I have 5,850 followers. The story that I posted from early this morning or yesterday has 590 views. That is 10%.
Yeah, like you might get 20% in a 24-hour span. So keep in mind also that not everybody that follows you even sees every story, right? And also that if they do see it once, there's a good chance they're not going to see it multiple times, right? And if they do see it multiple times, they're probably on your page a lot. Yeah. And they're probably some of your best followers anyway. And like every time that we do one of these like quarterly things, whether it's the group mentorship or Powerlifting Evolved, we'll get people like in the first 2 weeks, they're like, hey, is it too late to join up? I didn't know you were running this. And it's like, we did a 3-week launch where we did it like stories and posts like multiple times a week. And like, I didn't see any of it. And it's like, damn, okay.
Yeah, like I literally just had a guy DM me on Saturday after a post from Powerlifting Evolved was shared. He's been following me for 6 months, and he goes, "Oh man, is this a recorded course, or is this something that's live?" And it's like, it's week 6 of a 6-week program. It's over. Like, how did you not see this
We've been posting screenshots of the calls
for 6 weeks?
Yeah, like my 3 to 5%, like like most of mine are 5 to 7. If something gets shared a ton, or if I don't know, like I just hit the right day and time of the week, I might get 10%.
Yeah.
I almost never get over 10%
Never.
of total views on a story.
Never.
And, so just keep that in mind too. Like that's a big thing where you can post more, and again, you can post more than you're comfortable with and still not be oversaturating most of the time. It might feel like you are.
Yeah, I think it's important too. Like, I mean, I'll get people who like will say, "Oh yeah, I saw your post that you did," and I'll be like, "Oh, which one?" And they're like, "It just popped up on my feed, and it was from like 5 days ago."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, that's weird. I posted it like last week." So it may seem linear to you in time, but sometimes your posts get buried from people and they just never see it. So I think it's just like keep on throwing content out there, and it's not spammy if it's good content.
Right. And that's another important thing that I think you brought up there, Mike, is that it's linear. It's only linear for you.
Yeah.
It is not linear for anybody else. Cause like I'm looking, like if I look at my timeline right now, I have a post from 23 hours, a post from 3 days, a post from 22 hours, a post from 2 minutes ago. It's like none of it makes any sense anymore.
Yeah. Like 5 years ago, Instagram posted everything in order, and you would literally see every post of every person you followed. And it's just not like that anymore. Like they mess with the algorithm so much. They push certain things to you. And being consistent matters. My understanding is that being consistent in stories actually matters a lot more than posts now. You can post like 2 to 3 times a week and be okay if you're still doing multiple stories a day. And stories for me, like we just reshare a lot of other people's stuff too. Like that counts. Like, and if I share like one of Mike's posts and Mike now shares my share of his post or whatever and his story, well, now I'm in front of Mike's audience, right? Mm-hmm. That's beneficial too, because people do click on those, so even things like that stuff matters. You don't have to do it every single time for every single person, but and also I don't reshare a bunch of people with like 200,000 plus followers, for instance, because they're not going to reshare my share of theirs most often. Like I'm more apt to really like probably share people with less followers than me than more so typically, because even I might reshare somebody's story that has like 500 followers, but we probably have like 3 followers in common. Right? You have to look at what you have in common with people, right? Like Matt and I operate a business together, and
I'll give you the number right now.
We have like 300 followers in common.
I think it's less than that still.
Which is super embarrassing because we've had over 400 in the group mentorship, which means a lot of y'all don't follow Matt.
So Kyle, do you want to know what the number is of how many mutual followers we have?
I'd say 350.
153.
What?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So again, like think about it like that. Like if I share one of Matt's things, there's only 153 people that we have in common, right? Like you can get in front of a lot of audiences and a lot of different audiences based on that. You don't always have to share like influencers or bigger name people. Like we always encourage people in these groups, like share each other's stuff. You just spent 10 weeks together, in this program, like support one another as well. And that typically happens. Like we see a lot of people in our former groups that still end up doing a lot of things like that, even a year later sometimes. So like stuff like that matters, and just always look at, what you have in common as far as common followers with people, because that'll also combat a little bit probably the paralysis by analysis of posting things, right? And saying, oh, I had this great post worked up about like squat mechanics, and so just posted it yesterday. And then you look at their page and you're like, wow, we shared 25 people. Like, I can probably go ahead and post this and I'm not going to get a lot of relapse stuff where people see like multiple posts. And again, not stealing their material, please don't do that, but your version of what those mechanics are, right? Because again, this is all just made up shit that people made up. Like, no one's reinventing the wheel out there, like in this industry.
And if they say they are, they're lying.
Or it's just not good enough for other people to have done. For the most part. So just things like that should change your perception a little bit and how you're posting and what you're posting, and hopefully take a little bit of the stress out of it.
Yeah,
I would think so. That was a little bit of a rant.
But I think that was a useful rant for the social media content calendar, because I think a lot of people looked at this one and got a little intimidated and got a little pushed away from doing something like this.
This is the work of a C, Mike. For sure.
Yes.
This is what?
The work of the C in you.
This is the hardcore right here. This is
it looks like a lot, and I'm sure there's days I didn't do anything. I was just like, screw it. But I think it's important. I assume everyone has insights on their Instagram, because that's like super helpful. But if you don't, I would get that. I'd set it up as a business page so you can get the insights, because when you do the insights, like the reason I selected these type of content shells, I guess, is because when I went to my post and I'll look at the reach, I look at reach as kind of my main metric, not likes or anything.
Yeah.
I'll look at reach and I'll look every 30 days at it, because, obviously things change. So, and like you'll get a layout of what things that people like, and it is repeatedly these things. So that kind of directed, I was like, well, these are hitting well, so I'm going to do that. And like, if I was to update this, I know like Kyle, you post like just black and white sometimes with like a script, and it's kind of more, not like a ranty post, but I think it's a post to kind of get people talking, right? So I started doing that, just like, I just tried it out. I was like, I'm gonna see what happens here. And like, they went off like crazy, like some of my best posts in the past 30 days. So I think it's important for people too, to like, if you see a post that you like and you like the format, to just try it out. Like, so I ended up throwing them in, sometimes on like a Thursday or like a Saturday, just seeing and experimenting. So I think it's important to always use your stats to kind of see what things are hitting and what things aren't, and be adaptive.
Those metrics are huge. And we look at those a lot. And I'll definitely tell you guys, like, reach is a great way to go about it, because if your reach is good, everything's good is happening. But also just like the things that you'll find is like, likes don't matter that much. Shares and saves matter a lot.
Yep.
Like shares and saves are big. Likes, whatever, because I'll have people reach out to me all the time. They're like, I love your stuff. I've been following you for years. And I'm like, you've never liked a single post of mine. Like, I don't recognize you at all, right?
Yeah,
and then
they probably save all of them though.
Yeah, then some people just scroll and like everything without even reading it, right? So you'll kind of get almost just like two different archetypes there.
Yeah.
But the big thing is like the saves and the shares matter. And then you can also look on the bottom under the reach, right? It'll even tell you like where people are coming from, as far as like from home, from hashtags, from whatever, right? So you can also start looking at like, are my hashtags effective? How many people are coming from that? Are people coming from the home screen? Are people coming from like the search page or whatever it is? So you can also see where people are coming from, and that can help you kind of dictate what your strategies are from a posting perspective too.
So as an example of that one, when we're talking about reach, I made a post last week talking about feelings being a lie. And my reach on that one was 8,899 accounts were reached. And the impressions, I got 4,385 from hashtags, 2,929 from home, 2,059 from explore, and 635 from others. So that just let me know that the hashtags that I picked for a post like that were very, very, very good.
And you should probably use them again for things.
Yep.
Right. Also, side note, I think Beverly talked about this, don't copy paste your hashtags.
Oh, you have to type them in every single time.
Instagram knows you do that, and it just invalidates them altogether.
Yeah.
Total side note there.
Yes, they'll just mess your stuff up.
Yeah, Eric, I used to do that too, and yeah, apparently, it's smarter than that, and it wants you to actually type them in. So I
There was
use
one
that.
that I did that on recently.
Yeah, you'll get nothing from hashtags if you do that.
Yeah. So there's one that I did that on recently where I went from having with the same hashtags that I copied and pasted. The one that I did originally was literally not even saying anything, saying that like, hey, like my body is starting to feel good. I got 14,378 reach on that one. And then copy and pasting the same one to another one got 4,275 reach. That is less than a third of the reach because I copy and pasted the hashtags.
Things to think about.
That is a huge difference.
All right, so we got Eisenhower and OKRs.
Cool. All right, Mike, walk us through your Eisenhower matrix.
Let's do it. So this was actually pretty hard for me, just because I don't
like
really
to delegate.
Not at all. But I think it's just because I've kind of just like the things that need to get done, I do, and then I just stopped doing things that just maybe I could have delegated, but I think even that they probably weren't necessary. At least maybe that's where I'm at. So yeah, I mean, you can kind of see here the only things that I've kind of really, and when we get to the email template, or not the email, the week we talk about email marketing, like I'm starting now to see. You know, I'm at max capacity. I'm trying to find my remote clientele. I mean, my price points, have all that. And now I'm starting to see like there's just things I don't like doing, which would be email marketing, like starting to do like certain editing. Like I enjoy it, but it's just like it's kind of time consuming. So I think now this is something I have to kind of revisit because my things have definitely shifted in the past like 3 months. So this is kind of like a work in progress here, but just learning what to delegate and what not to delegate. I guess that would be it.
And the big thing is with both of these documents is they probably will change on a quarterly basis. They should most likely, right? Because your business is going to be changing and growing and adapting, right? So these things will evolve. And I think that's never something that you should look at as being a bad thing. It's more so looking at like your business is growing and you need to make adjustments to it. Like that's a good thing.
That's a really good thing. That's actually the question that I was going to ask is, Mike, looking at this now, is there anything that you would change?
No, I mean, I think I honestly stopped it. Like for emails, I would try and respond to every single email, even if it was just like what I would think is like not important. So I think maybe just like within these ones, I just stopped. I would siphon through things better and be like, you know, this email, not even important. I'm not even going to waste my time on it. I think a lot of what I deemed as important or urgent was also kind of dependent on the systems that I was using. Like it became urgent because my systems were not optimal. Like, for example, I'd have remote clients and they'd have a bunch of questions about their programming. I'd be like, oh my God, it says 4 sets. I don't know what you're not getting here. Right. But then maybe I wrote it down wrong, and maybe they're just not on the same page. So that was like up until like a month ago, I just started using Loom, which I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's basically you record your screen and everything. So like something like that, where getting back to clients, like remote clients, was urgent and important all the time. Now it's kind of moved into the maybe not so important because I've now used different systems to kind of jumpstart things so that down the road, maybe the 3-4 weeks in, they're up to speed now, instead of me having to just constantly combat that stuff and having that just weigh on you. So, I mean, maybe stuff like that, you know, like automating, like when I wrote this, I would say like 75% of my people were automated. And the 25 that weren't were the people that I was spending the most time on anyways. So just kind of getting them up to speed, maybe now has moved, you know, invoicing over to like maybe urgent or not important as much. So I think it's all kind of system dependent for me.
I think that's really awesome because you have a lot of clarity in what falls into what bucket. And the more you can, it's like we talk about, like the more you can systemize stuff, the easier your life will get as a business owner. And you can just start doing the stuff that is more fun and like working in the business or working on the business as opposed to in the business.
And you don't want to live in that urgent and important column. Like you want to have as many things in important and not urgent as possible. And that is a sign that your systems are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that means, and again, like you don't want to be an urgent but not important, because then that means you're spending a bunch of time on things that don't matter, right? You want to keep that pretty cleared out as well. So really where you want to have most of your things be is an important but not urgent. Like bi-monthly payroll can definitely be automated and be done and prepared for important, not urgent, most likely, where that's something where it's scheduled. It's not something that pops up last minute. And, on every other Monday of the month, or on the 1st and the 15th, you spend 30 minutes going through payroll, or something of that matter, whatever it takes you. Like Matt and I's payroll calls are usually less than 10 minutes.
Oh, I've got that so down pat. It is so fast.
Yeah, it's just like he literally tells me what numbers to plug into shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say that definitely was something that could probably move out now. But a lot of it was like managing. Like I don't have a lot of people I manage, but when you manage them, and maybe it's because you don't have a lot, you're a little more lenient at times to like, hey, I know you didn't log your sessions. I'll give you an extra couple minutes, just have it done by the end of the day. But then it pushes my schedule back, right? And then it's just mental. I'm like, I should have done payroll today, but Jimmy didn't do their stuff, so I have to wait till tomorrow. And then I got somebody else asking when payroll is going to hit. So in the past, I had all the same systems, but it was also me kind of like, yeah, Jimmy, just put it in there and shoot me a text when it's in there, because I only had a couple people. Where now I'm just like, yo, Jimmy, if it's not in there, you're not getting paid until next week.
Exactly what I was going to say.
I think it's also just kind of like Mr. Nice Guy at times, even though my personality can be, as I said, like stern and unempathetic to things. But I think there's some things you have to just kind of draw that line if you are managing people.
And that's exactly what I was going to say is like, if you, with something like that, that's where you like put calendar reminders, invite all your staff to it and get your shit in. And if you don't get it in, you're getting paid. You'll get paid in the next pay period. Sorry.
And that's just part of that's just expectations for people. It's like at my last job, I did payroll for over 1,000 people. And it would take me 2 full days every month for like 16 hours. And if people didn't fill out their stuff, I wasn't waiting on them. Like that's on them.
Yep.
But they had multiple emails that were automated sending out to fill out their time cards, blah, 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 like the whole thing. 3 days in advance, 2 days in advance, and then day of, morning of.
Yep. Yeah, it was the same thing when I had to do payroll. My payroll was for 36 people, and it was just like, well, you didn't submit your stuff, so that sucks.
You do this every 2 weeks. What to tell you.
Not a surprise.
You've been working here for 5 years, and we do payroll every 2 weeks, and I don't know what to tell you.
This is not really a surprise for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, my scroll wheel is broken, so it's a lot of this. So it's not a PC thing. It's this specific mouse thing. So walk us through your OKRs, Mike.
So I guess I kind of broke it down into, I guess, quadrants, if you will. So I've been doing kind of some similar stuff like this on a monthly / quarterly basis, where I just kind of look at like my physical goals, my business goals. I have some like self kind of calibrating goals, but I didn't list them here. But basically what I did is I just kind of, a very broad increase income, right? Which a lot of people say that, but then I think this was helpful because it kind of gave me what's the 3 things that are going to impact it the most. Well, when I did my budget, or I guess the money pricing week, I realized that my quick win is going to be getting my rates adjusted. Then I knew that remote clients for me has a huge ROI, so getting those going, because it's a huge opportunity that I wasn't capitalizing. And then my third one was driven by my least performing, which I was like, you know what, before I cut it, I want to first see if maybe I'm just not trying hard enough. So that's how I got my key results. And then my strategies, I basically, kind of broke it down to 3. And then I would bold things that maybe like at the point, I haven't revisited this, but like at the time, the bold was a thing I needed to do just when I came to the sheet. So that was kind of that quadrant. The red was my physical. So this was helpful for me just because if anybody, if you've ever had somebody bulking or cutting, and like I'm typically a leaner guy, you can definitely go through ebbs and flows where you're like, oh my God, I'm gaining body fat. This is horrible. But having the vision, I think, is helpful. And I'm definitely like an objective looking kind of person. So having it down on paper helped me there. So I think from that standpoint, when I was doing this, I was like, man, this would be pretty helpful if you have certain clients who respond to this type of stuff. So that's kind of, I broke it down into, the aspects I need to do, follow my timelines, follow my program, schedule bin bodies, and then just kind of went from there. So I guess that was those 2. I didn't do the last one.
That's okay. I mean, we list 3 out there. You don't necessarily have to have 3. Yeah. And I think that was another important thing that you said about point number 3 for your increased income in 2021 with the semi-private clients. Is that you want to get to, you want to give it a like legit shot before you decide to cut it and be like, well, maybe I was just not working the way that I should be working. And maybe if I work a little harder at it, it'll be better. And I think that's an important thing that we got to look at with this is if you have an idea and it's an idea that would make sense for your dollar per hour, you have to actually give it a try to see if it'll work. Because if you don't, you have no idea and you're just going to cancel a program that could be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I know semi-private like can be successful. I think it's just I need to get more people in it. So that's kind of why I'm like, it's an underperformer, but it's just kind of getting slow to start.
Yeah.
You probably also have to look at COVID is something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Semi-private right now.
Yes.
So again, like something that isn't working right now, right? That doesn't mean it's not going to be something that's a good product or good service for you down the road, so it's just, there's some things we can't control, obviously, when it comes to that too.
Yeah. I mean, because like 2019, I moved to Cincinnati after like never being here. So 10 years in New York. So that was kind of a slow start. And then 2020. So that's kind of, I mean, all that aside, I'm like, I told myself, like, I have a timeline. I'm like, I can ride this wave for another year if 2021 isn't like COVID ridden or anything, and it's like a normal year. Then I'll kind of reassess.
Yep.
I like it. Does anybody have any questions on this for us or Mike? Sweet. Cool. Moving on. This was just movement stuff, reference. This one is also just reference. Email templates. He already did those. He's already got that all set up. That was on the same one on week 1. Week 7, Mike's training model. So we have our example on one of them, and then we have his on another one. And I don't remember which one is which.
This kind of looks like yours.
Yep.
So, so I started by so I'll be honest, I didn't have, it's kind of all up here. And, this is something I've struggled with when I've hired people because obviously I don't have it written. I didn't have it written down and in the manuals, this and that, or I would, but I would always have to revisit it. So I liked your guys's. So what I did is I basically copied, pasted, and then I went through each one because some things that, I'm sure we all kind of work with similar populations, but obviously like pre-training paperwork, consultations, a lot of us are kind of doing that. The week we went over the assessment forms. So I have 2 different assessments forms, one for in-person, one for online. I know my process when I get somebody online, just because I'll use that because this is the past 3 months I've really been driving that. I get somebody coming in there. I ask them to fill out that sheet. When they fill out that, and I also tell them my rates, right in messaging. And if they fill out the sheet and they know my rates, I have a pretty good understanding that they're going to be a high lead or a high conversion rate. So from there, what I then do is I have all the information I need to set up my call. When I'm on the call, I'm able to basically condense a 30-minute call into like a 10-minute call, or I can spend the 30 minutes that I already would have spent, but I can like do a Zoom meeting and show them the platform I use, right? People love seeing the bells and whistles, right? So I show them, you know, the Coach Now app I use. I show them like the different systems that we use. I show them all the support things that I use, so that like they're getting a tangible vision of my product, and then that has kind of helped close that sale. So all that from the consultation. I do the same thing with in-person people. It just makes the consult faster, and also like I don't have to sit there and do small talk. I can just kind of get right to it.
Yeah, awesome.
In terms of the assessment, so it depends. Like online assessments are difficult, right? Because some people just never have videos of themselves. Some people it takes forever. So it really just depends. Like if somebody's ready to sign up right now, I'm not gonna like say, hey, well, I need to have your movement assessments first. So you know, but I'm like, hey, listen, if I don't have videos from you, it's just gonna take me longer to get your program. So the quicker you can do that, the quicker I can get going. And I'm pretty upfront with people on that. So I haven't had any issues with that.
Good.
Movement stuff, like I kind of pick and choose. I'm not 100% into FMS, but I do like some of like, I like their inline lunge stuff. Like it at least gives me some basic feedback. FRC, like I like certain aspects of it with like IR, some of the hip work. And then just over time, right? Like a good example would be like weightlifting, right? Like the overhead squat, like I know Kyle made a post there, like I think it's a misleading test. However, like if somebody can overhead squat properly, I know, okay, they could probably move into a weightlifting phase. But I think what happens then, I'll get people who can overhead squat. And then from there, I look at it, I'm like, well, is it ankle? Is it derived from the ankle, the hip, or the knee? Or is it shoulder? So like, it might be like a general kind of, hey, I'm gonna use this test. If it looks good, Rigucci. If not, then I have to go down, break it down. Same thing with a push-up. So that's kind of what I do in person and all that. Like anthrometrics, kind of the main ones, because I'm online, or even in person, usually weight, body comp, circumference, and pictures, because most people just have body composition goals.
Yeah.
And then performance, again, I don't really do a lot of testing with people, especially beginners, just because like I know if they just work out, they're going to get results. It's kind of, you know, wasting, I guess. I'd rather have them just get started training. So I typically do 1 month, and then I'll start kind of testing. Now, if they come in and they already are at that point, if it's a weightlifter and they know their 1RMs, I guess I don't need to test their 1RMs because it's not like we're going to be maxing out anytime soon. So then I do have some of my like 1 month tests, like might be trap bar deadlift. Typically it is for Gen Pop. But I might do regular deadlift, bench squat, because everyone wants that. They want to be able to bench. And then I like doing 500 meter, 100 cal road bike, just because those are things that I can use in workouts. Like if I know their 500 meter time, I can give them a 250 meter EMOM. I can do all kinds of stuff with that. So that's kind of my assessment, I guess, how I conceptualize that.
Nice. I think one of the things that's important to bring up is you said that Kyle talked shit about the overhead squat as an assessment. For your population, that is a specific assessment for weightlifters.
Yeah.
Talk shit about it because mainly because every major Globo gym in America uses it for Gen Pop people who do not Olympic lift.
Yeah.
And will never do an overhead squat in training in their entire life.
That'll never ever get near it.
Well, and it's even like, I mean, I'm like, if you give me a PVC pipe to overhead squat, it probably look pretty shitty because like it's like 3 ounces.
Yeah.
But if you give me a barbell, it's a little better. If you give me like 100 kilo, it's probably a beautiful overhead squat. So it's also load dependent. So that's why I like a lot of these, you know, a lot of these testing, like I have really shitty active hamstring, but if anybody watches my videos, like my hamstrings, like I'll do a high kick and take like a 6'3" guy out. Like the hamstrings aren't an issue.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like sometimes these tests can be misleading. So that's why I kind of variable about it. But I have to obviously have to have some sort of concrete target. So that's kind of where it's like hitting a move at target sometimes with people.
I have 2 things to bring up with that one. Number 1, nice little humble brag talking about 100 kilo overhead squat. Number 2, why'd you have to pick a 6'3" guy talking about kicking him in the head? Like I feel attacked and persecuted right now. Like you're coming after me.
Because if you've ever, so I spar, and most of the guys I spar with are at least 6'2", 6'3", and they have height advantage, reach advantage, and leg advantage. I kick. So when I land something, it's like a memorable experience for me.
Let's kick them right
Because
in the
if you ever went against somebody who's tall or shorter than you, it's like you have some kind of advantages. So
I've never gone against anybody taller than me.
yeah. So
I will say
yeah.
another caveat on Olympic lifting and snatches is most Olympic level snatches, even like world record snatches, would not actually pass an overhead squat assessment.
Oh, no way.
Right. That's another thing that, again, where
Well, we have a heel lift, which is a regression of the FMS test.
and a much wider hand grip, and typically much more thoracic extension and shoulder extension, within that too. So total thing. Like I said, I only had 2 people argue with me on that post, and one of them had never actually performed an overhead squat assessment and didn't know what it was.
One of them didn't know what you were even talking about. He kept
know what
you were complaining. He kept confusing with an overhead press.
And then the other one never done anything but an FMS for clients and had no idea what the other options were.
But I think the training model, it's all filled out. It all looks really solid. You've got a very good breakdown for everything that you're going to do with each individual sessions, 1, 2, and 3, hitting all the stuff that you're going to hit, going through all the phases, talking about how it's going to vary based on the phase and progressing them up to where they need to go. I think that looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I will say the lifestyle cohesiveness,
cohesiveness, coherence.
Dang, that's a tricky word right there. I think for me, I put in here, like, I could improve here, like, and I think most trainers probably, this is kind of like, at least for me, this is something that kind of gets the back burner, right? Like, oh, you don't feel good, I'll just sleep, yada, yada. But it's more of just like, well, just get some sleep. But I do really try to focus on, like, nutrition. I think is big. I'm a huge fan of certain things that I use with that. NEAT is big. Yeah. And then, sometimes I don't really talk about relationships too much with people. Like, I kind of draw that line because I know that's a slippery slope. But I think it's important for some people, and you can create community relationships in your gym other ways. That's more of, mindfulness, all that stuff. So, but it was good to see you guys listed that, because that's something I could probably maybe refine a little better.
And I even think about the relationship aspect is like a support system more so than like a romantic relationship, right? Like, it's more so, do you have people in your life that support your lifestyle choices, based on fitness and health? Because that's something big that we see a lot, especially with like Gen Pop, like weight loss clients, is typically like, if they have a partner or a spouse or a family, right? Like, they're not the only overweight person in that group, right? Like, habits are going to travel within a family unit, right? So if they're making this big change to try to lose weight and they're very motivated with that, but nobody else in their immediate household is on board with that, I want to know, simply because they're going to have a really hard time adhering to a lot of those lifestyle things that I'm trying to help them with. So I might need to connect them with other clients of mine or other people in the gym, if I'm in person, who share similar goals, so we can kind of create another tribe that's going to be more fitness focused or more lifestyle focused for what they're trying to do. And so that's always, and I've talked to spouses before. I've done a lot of things from that perspective, as far as just, letting them know how they can better support their partner, based on that as well. Because again, I think a lot of people, it's not so much that they're against that person's change. Sometimes it's just they don't know what to do. They don't know what other changes they need to be making, right, for grocery shopping or whatever, right? So definitely some things to talk about.
I like the honesty in this one. So I had a couple people DM me in Slack about the email campaign, which is one of the things that we didn't have covered as much in depth in this course. So it'll probably be something I remove from the case study moving forward. But you guys can obviously all read what he's saying. I do not use email consistently. This is something I've struggled with in the past. I'm really thinking about outsourcing, and I think outsourcing it is a great idea, because that's going to be one of those things that right now for you puts you in the, it's going to make it feel like it's urgent and important, but it's going to be a time waster and a time suck. where you could be focusing on something else and having somebody else do that for you.
Unless you're just really good at copy and love that stuff, you can outsource that super cheaply.
Yeah. Very easy.
And again, like a lot of us, especially if your website is fairly new, you might not have your email list might be 1/10 of your following on Instagram, right? Like it might just not even be that big of a need anyway, or the return on investment there might not even be big enough for you to really pursue that heavily. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to get more. But
We got 2 Mike Dewars in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch over to my phone here.
But that is, again, that'll kind of maybe steer you in a direction. But yeah, the email list, we'll probably take that out. I know Beverly and Jennifer talked about it a little bit, but for most of you guys, where you can have the most immediate impact is probably through social media right now.
Yeah.
And slowly build up the email list over time.
Yeah, I think that's all we can really say about that. Week 9 training menu. Got a nice little group of stuff in here. It's filled out to the best of the capacity that you can for right now, and it's just examples of all the stuff that we were doing. And then week 10, if you're not using the Excel template, this is not necessary for you. If you're using an app, you don't have to worry about this one. But if you're using an Excel template, I'd fill out an example here or make your own.
Yeah. I think I will, once I digest. That was a lot. I'm sure other people too felt
That was a lot.
So I think that's like a winter break kind of, have a bottle of whiskey and go through it kind of deal.
That was a lot.
You guys will notice that I outsource my Excel stuff to Matt. So again, delegating, outsourcing, not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I gotta get on my CPA clients. They live in Excel.
Yes.
Those are the people you should be asking about it, because it's all the formulas. So we had a couple questions in the Slack. Anything you want to add, Mike, before we kind of start answering some questions based on that? We appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I think we're pretty thorough. I just think if you have social media, to use it. I think in the fitness space, my biggest growth has been from social media. Somebody did ask me in the comments, they said, is that content calendar, was that for social media or in person? I will say though, that in-person stuff, most of my leads come from like just people reaching out website, and their biggest, where they come from is Google, either SEO or reviews.
Yeah,
so I will say get Google reviews on there. And I was asking like friends, I was asking people who have worked with me in the past, remote people who have worked with me remotely to leave a review for my in-person. Like, do what you got to do. Because like I've had sales or people have been like, I found your reviews, 30 reviews in a small town is like huge. So I think just push those out there for in-person.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that a couple times. Like in-person stuff is going to be a lot of referrals and a lot of things like what Mike's talking about, where people will like just Google local gyms, and the better SEO you have, the more reviews you have, you'll pop up. Social media is going to be much more directed probably towards remote for the majority of you, but at the same time, that's also a good reason to like geotag everything that you do, right? Like if you're looking for in-person clients, every time you like film yourself working at a gym, geotag it to that location, because other people will search tags, right? And if they see you as a trainer training people or working out in that gym, now they know you're there and what you do, right? So there's definitely some reasons to do that. Obviously, women especially, be careful where you're tagging yourself. I don't think you need to go like too deep into that conversation, but it's 2020, almost 2021, and people are creeps. So you don't need everybody to know where you are all the time.
Pictures of Kyle's kids get over 100 saves.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. So that's, and the worst thing about saves is you can't see who saves it.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
That's why they're in my stories and not on my page.
And other than that, we actually got no questions in the call form. None whatsoever.
We got a few. I know Eric had a question here. And Chance, thank you. They're my family goals too. So going back to the Eisenhower matrix for the not important stuff, this is something that you might not even have to fill out, because you might really, what I look at is like, an example for me is periodically, like I can only work for about 2 hours in a row without being crazy. So I'll literally take like 10 to 15-minute breaks where I'll either like go outside, or I'll surf social media a little bit, or maybe I'll take a 30-minute break where I'll read a few chapters out of my book or whatever it may be. And those are things that aren't necessarily important, but are going to be things that I still want to have probably scheduled in my day for myself personally. Checking spam emails, kind of going through things like that, that might be in there. Cleaning out your actual email inbox might be something like that. Organizing some other of your systems might be something there.
Yeah, organizing your inbox is a huge one for that.
Yeah, where it's just like, hey, like, can I clean out my inbox and get everything in folders, at 15 minutes at the end of each day, or whatever, and just make sure that I've answered everything. So there's definitely some little things there that they're not going to make or break your business acutely, or on a small time scale, but over time it'll just make your life easier. So they're not urgent at all. They're not super important, but they're probably still scheduled into kind of like little breaks in your day, so to speak. Yeah, that one I think is always kind of confusing for people, where it's just like, what's not important, not urgent that I actually want to do. So those are things where, maybe that makes it up. And again, like if you're at a capacity where you can have an administrative assistant at some part, or, virtual assistants, are super cheap and can save you a lot of time and things like that as well, potentially, where maybe they like manage some of your inbox stuff and things of that nature. If you've got just an overwhelming amount of things, or it's just things that you don't enjoy doing, that can be something you can also delegate out potentially. The goal for, I think, any of us is, and again, it's a goal, right? So it doesn't mean we're always going to achieve it or achieve it at the time that, we want to from an urgency perspective, but is to eliminate, automate, or delegate every single thing that we don't have to do personally over time. Yeah. Right. So automating is all about systems. And sometimes, Mike made a pretty good examples there of just being more proactive and setting better expectations early on in the product to eliminate questions later on. Right. And there's things there, like we do that, like even on our template, like Matt made a YouTube video about how to use the template itself. And it's just, it's on the front page, right? Just so we don't have to explain how to use the template. It's right there in big bold letters. And it took, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes total for Matt to make it, edit it, get it all put in.
Video?
Yeah, not even that probably, but
it took me 6 minutes.
Yeah, so it saves us so much time down the road though.
Yeah.
Because now we don't have to go through the process of every single client explaining how to use that template.
Yep.
Right. Setting that initial email where you set the expectations, like Mike does, like we do, like we tell people the price as early in the process as possible, because if that's a barrier to entry, I don't want to waste more time. Like if somebody just can't afford what we do, like that's cool, no judgment. I don't need to do an hour-long consultation with you only to find out that we're out of your price range.
Yeah.
Like that's
also why we put our prices up front for everything too.
Yeah, that's a huge waste of time for us when you're busy working with clients, So there's definitely some things there where you can save time later on by just setting better expectations and creating better systems early. The delegating thing, again, some of that is budgetary, like fully aware of that. I worked my business for almost 1.5 years before I could hire Matt. and be able to start delegating some of the stuff that I was doing to him. Obviously didn't have an assistant or anything like that either. So that might take some time, but again, it could be a goal down the road, right? And something that you might want to try to plan for. So there's definitely some things there that the delegation, the automation stuff might not be immediate, but you can probably even using a platform like Calendly that saves Matt and I tons of time over the course of a month and costs us $30, right?
Very worth it.
It saved a couple training potential client relationships also over the course of that time, just being able to schedule consultations or calls way more quickly and not have the bouncing back and forth email game over time. There's definitely some things there that they come at a cost, but it's a low cost and it will probably make itself back up very quickly within your first sale that you use it. So there's definitely some things there that you can automate a little better probably that you can, and again, without having to go about the delegating, because that's going to take some time for most of us. Any other questions?
That's all I got.
That's all I got too. So we'll have Wednesday's call, obviously. So obviously, as you guys are putting together yours, send them in the meantime if you're finishing them. If you want us to take a look at them beforehand, we're happy to go through and kind of audit another one of these and have somebody walk through it. Or we can also make this final call more of just a broader Q&A. And I'll post all this stuff into the Slack as well, where we can just, have more of a informal conversation about either the document itself or just anything else y'all want to talk about. But that's all I got. So we'll talk to y'all Wednesday.
Just so you guys know, I have the last call for the group mentorship as well in my email. I have to get the password to our YouTube reset. We had an issue with it, and I'm still having an issue with it, so I still can't get it to update. So once that's done, I'll put them on YouTube as soon as possible.
YouTube went dumb on us.
Yes.
Technology. Sometimes that. All right. Thank you, everybody. And
guys,
see you on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday. Yeah, Matt, everybody bring your drinks on Wednesday.